Hitting on a player that you took in the first or second round is great, but it's so much better, so much more significant when you hit on a late round guy, somebody that people weren't talking up as a huge player, or somebody that you think could boom that a lot of other people think are just meh or even potentially bust. So I have 6 players today that I want to give you that I think could absolutely boom this coming year and maybe even years beyond, that are not expensive players, players that are under the radar, less expensive, guys that could really rise up boards within the next year. Let's start at the wide receiver position. I've got wide receiver Josh Downs. Now, I know some of you are like, well, Josh Downs, I don't mind him as a player, but the problem is the quarterback that he was connected to. Well, even with a bad situation last year, he averaged 13.1 points per game, which was actually better than DK Metcalf. He missed a little bit of time, but he actually wasn't a bad asset last year. But when you look at just the games that he had with Joe Flacco, he averaged 15.5 points per game, almost 5 points more than when he had Anthony Richardson as his starting quarterback. Yes, I know Anthony Richardson was here, but so is Daniel Jones. I think they brought Daniel Jones in to legitimately compete. The money would suggest this is not just a true backup situation. Yes, Anthony Richardson will get a shot, but I think it's going to be Daniel Jones over the course of the season. And if that's the case, we know Josh Downs has the talent, has the ability to be a high-end scorer. In fact, 15.1 points per game would be higher if he played all 16 games, higher than Jackson Smith and Jigba, who was wide receiver 9 last year. So yeah, Josh Downs could have a huge year with the right quarterback. Factor in too that Josh Downs, his Dynasty ADP is only wide receiver 45 right now, and his redraft is wide receiver 47. So the cost is relatively cheap to what you could potentially get out of a player like this. Let's head over to the running back room and let's look at a guy that I wasn't super high on in the beginning, but the more I dug into his numbers, the more I fell in love with Jordan Mason. Jordan Mason, his Dynasty ADP right now is running back 47, redraft running back 34. One of the things that really surprised me was his breakaway run rate. That's runs over 15 yards. He was the only player to have double digit. He had 11 of them with under 180 attempts. He only had 153. All these other guys were at 200 and 300 attempts to get to double digit 15 plus yardage runs. He did that at the 6th best rate out of all running backs with at least 80 carries. Aaron Jones, he was much lower than that. He was only doing that at 19% of his run. So significantly better for a guy like Jordan Mason that was doing it in the mid-30s to Aaron Jones that was doing it at 19%. Forced missed tackles, same thing. 24% for Jordan Mason, only 18% for Aaron Jones. And when you look at an elusive rating, Mason, he was 11th out of all running backs at 81.6, 38th for Aaron Jones. So all the numbers point to Jordan Mason is just the more explosive player. He's just making more plays. Then coming off a year where Aaron Jones actually stayed fairly healthy and he had the most touches in the backfield that he's ever had. My guess is he is not going to be able to sustain that again. And we have somebody that is younger and more explosive available for the Minnesota Vikings. They traded for this guy. It wasn't just, hey, we need somebody, so we're going to sign him as a free agent. No, they actually had to give up draft capital in order to get Jordan Mason on their team. I think he's going to play, and I think he's actually going to end up playing a lot more than people assume. I still can't believe this guy's ADP is so low. Dynasty-wise, we are looking at wide receiver 54. Redraft, he's a little bit more adequate, but still too low for me. Redraft ADP of wide receiver 37, and that is Jauan Jennings. I think people forget how good he was last year with Brock Purdy. Last year, overall, according to PFF, he was the 16th best wide receiver as far as the receiver score that they gave. So he was putting up a show week in, week out. In fantasy points, he was wide receiver 24. So he was a wide receiver 2 despite missing 2 games. So on a points per game basis, he's even a little bit better than that. And now what we're doing is we're making his situation no different other than it's better. Deebo Samuel is gone. That was the big player that was cumbersome for him. And we don't know how quickly Brandon Ayuk is going to be coming back. That wide receiver room is wide open. And yes, does Ricky Pearsall have something to say about it? Yes, he's a good player. He's a first-round pick. He's going to be involved. But Brock Purdy wants to get the ball to Jauan Jennings. I think he's going to continue to target him. 111 targets last season. I think that number goes up fairly significantly this year. And I think his cost is just way too dirt cheap. Another receiver that I just do not understand the ADP here. Dynasty ADP, wide receiver 60, redraft, wide receiver 59. So either way, he's basically free. And that is Marvin Mims. Marvin Mims, for the entire season last year, PFF grade for him was 34th best out of all receivers in the NFL. But when he finally started to really get involved in the offense, second half of the season, from week 11 on, get this, PFF ranked him as the fourth best wide receiver. That was only behind Puka Nacua, Mike Evans, and Drake London. That's it over that stretch. He was the best receiver other than those three guys. Now you look at what this team did this offseason. They did bring in a wide receiver, but it's a wide receiver that does not play the same type of game as Marvin Mims. Pat Bryant is more for Vele and more for Cortland Sutton, more in that type of mold. Marvin Mims, they drafted nobody to take the top off the defense. They drafted nobody to be the quick in and out guy. No, that's still Marvin Mims. This is his role. And Brock Purdy, he became a favorite of his over the course of the season. They're going to use him not only in the receiving game, but also in the running game as well. They want to get Marvin Mims the football, and especially in best ball, but dynasty, redraft, whatever, the risk is just nothing compared to what the reward could be on a Marvin Mims. Let's look at a tight end here real quick, and I want to take a look at Mason Taylor. I know usually these videos aren't surrounding rookies, but I think this guy could absolutely boom as early as this season. His dynasty ADP is tight end 18, redraft tight end 24. But let's look at how tight ends finished under Tanner Engstrand, which that's their offensive coordinator in New York. He was the passing game coordinator under Ben Johnson. So during that time, let's look at how Laporta fared. He was the fourth tight end both seasons in 2023 and in 2024 as a young player, a rookie and a second-year guy. He was fourth in red zone targets. What do we need to succeed at tight end? We either need great volume or we need red zone opportunities and touchdowns. Well, he's going to get both, because you look at this team, there is nobody else at the tight end position. In years past, guys like Tyler Conklin and whatnot are there. Here's the other tight ends there right now. Jeremy Ruckert, Stone Smart, Zach Kuntz. There's nobody there. But even at their wide receiver position in general, outside of Garrett Wilson, Josh Reynolds, Alan Lazard, Malachi Corley, Tyler Johnson, there's just nothing here. There are no pass catchers in this offense. And when we look at Engstrand, not only was he with Ben Johnson, but he's also a disciple of Jim Harbaugh, another offensive mind that really likes to involve the tight end. They used a second-round pick on this kid, and he has all of the pedigree that you would want. I think I've been too low on him in this entire process, and I am going to rectify that very quickly. Last but not least, I cheated a little bit with my last one. My last one here, I did not pick a specific player, but I picked a specific position. And it is the running back position for the Chicago Bears. Reason I picked that is we were just talking about Ben Johnson offenses, right? Well, obviously he's the new head coach here in Chicago. And over the past couple seasons, what have we seen? We've seen David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs go nuts. In fact, both of them had over 14.5 points in each season. And we saw Jahmyr Gibbs finish as the number one overall running back. Lions running backs over the past few years, 5th in total rushing yards, 6th in total rushing yards. In those same seasons, 1st and 2nd in rushing touchdowns. They are going to get the ball to their running backs on the ground consistently. We look at DeAndre Swift. We look at Kyle Monangai. We look at Roschon Johnson. We look at these guys. You can pick who you want. I'm going to try to take all of them because their ADP dictates that it will be very, very easy for me to do so. Right now, redraft ADP for Swift, 33, Roschon, 67, Monangai, 85. Dynasty-wise, 31, 65, and 71 for the same players. They are dirt cheap. And in an offense that is going to prioritize getting them the football early and often, I don't care who it is. Just tell me the guys you're going to give the ball, and I want them on my team. So right now, I'm trying to acquire all three of these guys because I think this position booms for the Bears in 2025. So with that, who's your boom players? Who's your guys that are going to break out this year? Guys that, yes, we know obviously Jamar Chase is going to have a big year. Ashton Genty's going to have a good year. We know that. But guys that maybe are a little bit under the radar, guys that not everyone is looking at. Who are those guys for you?